Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I have a lore video explaining the fates of all the major characters in Red Dead Redemption 1. If you ever wanted to know what happened to the major characters after the main story, after 1914, this video explains it, as well as giving a character analysis of the characters and what I think of their fate and all of that. Now, I apologize for this being a re-upload. I do. I almost never do re-uploads. This is only the second time that I've ever done a re-upload, and the last time that I did a re-upload was actually for the exact same reason as this one, and that is that the original video that I posted a few days ago has gotten demonetized, and I don't even know for what. YouTube said that it was for foul language, and it was labeled as not advertiser friendly. And I also want to thank AF Guides HD, which I will link his channel. He's a great channel down below. He gave me advice on what he believed triggered it in my video, and I changed that. But this is just ridiculous, so I'm sorry again for a re-upload, guys. It's just that I spent 2 weeks working on this project. 2 weeks. I did a lot of research on these characters. I replayed all of these missions with these characters, recorded so much, edited this video together, made a very big script, and it just personally hurts me so much. Like, I feel like I get punched in the gut when, like, something like this happens, when, like, my lore video gets demonetized. It's like, I put a lot of work into this, and I do this for your entertainment, guys, but this is also how I make a living. So I make a lore video usually once or twice a month, and those are, the most popular on my channel. So when a lore video gets demonetized, that just really hurts me. And so I'm just really hoping that this video now will not get demonetized. And I have timestamps down below if you guys just want to skip my speech right here. But just please, I'm just asking YouTube support. If anybody, watches this video, please do not demonetize this video again. Please don't. Because I just worked so hard on this video. And if this video gets demonetized a second time, I'm not going to re-upload it a third time. It's just going to stay the way it is. So hopefully it doesn't get demonetized again. But anyways, here we go. Let's start up the video here. Hope you guys enjoy it. Sorry about my speech there, but I just wanted to explain why this was re-uploaded again. But anyways, in this video, what we are going to be doing is we're going to be talking about what happened to all the main characters after 1914. So what was their fate? What ended up happening to them? We're not going to be covering Undead Nightmare because that's technically not canon. We're going to be talking instead just the standard game of Red Dead Redemption and what happened to a lot of these characters. And I will actually have timestamps down below. So if you want to skip to a specific character, you can skip down below. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do enjoy these videos, do drop a like. It does help them out. But anyways, let's get started here. So let's start with Bonnie MacFarlane. This is the character that I think most people will be interested in. So Bonnie is the most important person in the story because she saves John's life at the start of the game. John, to repay her, helps her around her ranch as well as saving her from Williamson's gang. He eventually parts ways and goes to Mexico. However, once he returns and takes down Dutch, he pays Bonnie a visit with his son Jack. They go to buy cattle from her, and then a few days later, Bonnie sends John a telegram.
John, we got a telegram from some lady friend of yours, a Bonnie something or other. Something you ain't telling me?
Bonnie MacFarlane. She's a friend. Saved my life when I went after Bill and nearly got myself killed again.
Oh, and now you two's in the habit of sending each other letters. How very nice.
It weren't nothing like that. What's it say?
I don't know. I can't... Well, you know I can't read.
Give it here.
You read that thing out loud?
I ain't hiding nothing. Dear Mr. Marston, stop. Need corn sacks. Stop. Emergency. Stop. Weevils and moths ate entire county supply. Stop. Can you help? Not exactly the most romantic request now, is it?
I guess not. She saved your life, you say?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, then you're gonna have to help her and her family out. We've got a plentiful supply of corn sacks over near the silo. About the one thing Uncle didn't manage to have stolen while we was gone.
Okay.
In this telegram, Bonnie talks about how the harvest is going bad and she needs help desperately. John arrives with his wife Abigail.
You came. Thank you so much. We lost the entire harvest.
Miss MacFarlane, I'd like you to meet my wife, Abigail.
Oh, ain't you quite the gentleman all of a sudden? It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Marston. Likewise. Thank you for saving my husband's life and for teaching the miserable goat some manners, among other things. I didn't teach him anything. I know better than to try to change a man. You should meet my father. Oh, people can change, Miss MacFarlane. John and I have to believe that more than anybody.
This is a decent first harvest for you, John. You should be proud. That's good land you got there.
How are you feeling, Mrs. Marston? From what your husband told me, it must have been awful for you. I've been through worse, and I knew he'd be back before too long. He can't cook a meal to save his life.
Abigail, in my darkest hours, when I was most homesick, just the thought of one of your rat meat stews kept me pushing forward.
Well, about as amusing as a weeping saddle sore, ain't he, Miss MacFarlane? If you're gonna start yammering about women's work, John, I'd say you might be in the wrong company. I'd say so, too.
I never felt so outnumbered.
Now, a lot of people at this point were speculating whether John or Bonnie had feelings for each other. It's clear that John likes her, at least as a friend, but he understands he's married. Bonnie, however, from her last look, clearly shows that she is in love with John Marston. She hates to see him go. And the question is whether she exaggerated the problems on her ranch just so she could see him again. This is the last time that we see her ever, chronologically, in a Red Dead game. So what happened 3 years later? Well, if you read the Red Dead Wiki, it claims that NPCs in 1914 gossip about her being married to an unknown person. However, though, I investigated these claims. I don't think this NPC dialogue actually exists. I'm not saying 100% it doesn't exist, but from my gameplay, I never discovered it. I spent 2 hours running around all day on MacFarlane's ranch. I spent time at the poker table, general store, campfire, and I ran around the barns, farm fields, and the train station. In the 2 hours I spent listening to NPC dialogue, I heard NPCs talking about Governor Nate John, Reyes' revolution in Mexico, someone with a Carcano sniper rifle, how John saved a ranch, etc. And I heard these dialogues multiple times. I never once heard an NPC talking about Bonnie being married. This wiki post has existed since 2010, because I remember that back when the game first came out, the wiki also said that an NPC talked about her being married. I don't think this NPC dialogue exists, but if it does, feel free to correct me. I will admit if I'm wrong. I will edit my pinned comment if I am wrong. I also asked my viewers on Twitter whether they heard this dialogue about Bonnie being married, and a few people told me they think they heard it, but I didn't have anybody say 100%. If this dialogue exists, please let me know in the comments and what NPC says it. Is it a male or a female NPC that says it, or it doesn't matter? The GTA Wiki also said that in GTA 5 there was a radio broadcast talking about Floyd and Deborah's murder, but I studied the entire radio news updates in that game, and I did not hear that either. So the wiki could be wrong at times, but I'm not 100% certain on this. So in my opinion, I don't think this dialogue exists, but I could be wrong. Now, Bonnie is still very much head of the ranch, because even though NPCs do not mention her marriage, she is mentioned by other NPCs in other ways. A lot of people speculate that Amos, the head ranch, married Bonnie, because that's the last time that you see Amos also walking away after she sees John leaving. Amos walks right by her and says, "Ma'am." However, though, despite people thinking that Amos marries Bonnie, there is actually proof that this is not the case. Let's start out with the biggest proof right here.
You never did tell me why you were never married. Aside from the snobbery, that is.
You sure ask a lot.
I'm just surprised, that's all. You must have been quite a kid.
The fact that you're talking in the past says it all.
No, that's not what I mean. You must have had some suitors, that's all I'm saying.
Some, I suppose. Here and there. A ranch in the middle of Hennigan's Stead ain't really the place to find a husband. Amos, he's a little, well, you know, countrified.
Where'd you get your airs and graces, Miss MacFarlane?
From a couple of cheap governesses Paul hired to save us from being savages. I'd like to talk about more than just cattle and chickens sometimes, that's all.
Bonnie states that she hasn't found anyone that she likes. She even mentions that Amos is too countrified for her. Amos is also much older than Bonnie. He appears even in Red Dead Online as an adult, and that game takes place 13 years before 1911. So there's a massive age gap between them.
MacFarlane?
Yes, Amos?
The wagon, it's gone.
Gone where, precisely?
Well, we don't know. That's what gone means. It means that you cannot find it.
Well, actually, on point of order, it doesn't, but let's not get lost in semantics. Any clue as to where it might be?
I suppose. Maybe Jimmy used it to take his mother to the doctor. He was riding through some nasty country.
God damn it. Excuse me. Amos, get on with the milking.
Yes, Miss MacFarlane.
You wouldn't mind trying to...
But also, Amos does not seem like a good ranch hand. He nearly loses the entire herd during a storm, to which Bonnie calls him an idiot.
Got most of the horses secure and the chickens.
Well, thank you, Amos, but it's the herd I'm worried about.
I know, they're scattered all over the valley and beyond. The weather is coming in real fast.
So what do you suggest, Amos? We leave the herd out there to be scattered by the storm and ourselves left here to die without a livelihood?
Can I help?
No, miss. If the men get caught out in that storm, they're gonna die.
And if we lose our herd, we'll all die, you stupid man.
Doesn't sound like we're left with much of a choice then. Come on, Amos. Round up your men. Let's get the herd.
Dang.
He also seems to walk around the ranch most of the time, and when he's not working, he spends all of his time playing poker. The amount of time he spends playing poker is crazy, but he also admits he likes poker much more than ranching.
My spurs tangled.
It sure beats herding cattle.
But the biggest proof that Bonnie never married Amos is what he says about John Marston here.
Between you and me, Bonnie took a real liking to that Marston fella.
Harley bears repeating, do it?
He gossips about how Bonnie liked John Marston in a romantic way. If Amos married Bonnie, would he really be gossiping about how Bonnie was in love with another man? This makes no sense. So to sum it up, Bonnie is not married to Amos. I highly doubt she would marry him. If she did marry someone, it's someone else. But if she didn't marry Amos, what is she doing right now? She is still running the ranch, and we don't see her around, but to be fair, we didn't see her around the ranch in 1911 outside of cutscenes either. Now people also speculate on whether or not she knows that John Marston died. She knows John is dead 100%. How does she know that John's dead? Remember, she sends John a telegram. She knows where he lives. His ranch is, 2 miles from her? And there was a massive shootout on John's ranch. Plus, all the newspapers talking about how John Marston is dead. Bonnie figured out that he was dead. She remembers Jack because he visited her once with his dad, John. Jack is still welcome at the ranch and is able to use the quarters there. Maybe Bonnie felt bad for him. That's why he is still able to use the safe house there. It's possible she also fell into a depression after John's passing, but one thing I do believe, I don't think that she married Amos. Next, we have Drew MacFarlane, Bonnie's father.
I'm fine, thank you. Did you meet my father? John Marston, this is my father, Drew MacFarlane.
Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Marston. Please. So, my daughter informs me that you're here on some secret mission to remove some undesirables from the county.
Something like that. I'm grateful for the hospitality, sir.
Well, you know, we've lived here for 30 years now.
I remember a lot of people speculated that he died after the story, but there is no proof for this claim. We see him for the last time in the mission The Outlaws Return, where he waves to John.
John Marston! Now, there's a face I thought I'd never see again. Some of our public servants in Blackwater sent you back on another homicidal errand to protect and save us from Lord only knows what.
Thankfully not, sir. I was hoping you might still be able to sell me some cattle.
My boy, it would be a pleasure. Bonnie's out in the crowd now. She'll be more than happy to help you.
Take care now, Mr. MacFarlane. Good luck. All right, Jack. You're gonna have an important job. I want you to lead the herd.
One NPC mentions Mr. MacFarlane not liking the new blacksmith.
Mr. MacFarlane ain't none too happy about the new blacksmith.
I don't know.
That NPC was talking about Drew, and then we have another NPC talking about how Drew needs to get with the times.
Watch yourself.
Careful there, sir. If Drew MacFarlane doesn't move with the times, he's gonna lose that ranch.
You speaking the truth now?
This is not Bonnie's husband, because if she did marry someone, her last name would change to her husband, and it's definitely not her brother. Remember, he left the ranch for New York, and now he would come back after all these years, and they would put him in charge? No way. Bonnie even says that she runs the ranch.
And after my brother left, it was up to me to become the man of the ranch. He never admitted, but my paw's a lot frailer than he looks.
You're worth two of any man I know, miss.
Drew might be getting old, but he's still very much alive and is helping to run the ranch in 1914, even though we don't see him. He's not dead, despite what people say. Now let's talk about Javier Escuella, John's former friend who betrayed him in the Vanderlyn gang.
Hello, old friend. It's been a long time.
Hello, brother. It's good to see you. I heard you was coming. You took your time, no? Come on, you're not gonna shoot your own brother, are you? We was family.
Yeah, we were. Then you and Dutch went crazy and family didn't mean so much.
So now you do the government's work.
And what do? You just work for a different government.
Come on, brother. I think we should go our separate ways, huh?
What you and Dutch did was wrong. And the way you left me was wrong. Now, I hate to judge, but as it turns out, it's you or me. The way I see it, might as well be you.
We thought you was dead, brother. I promise. I'm telling the truth. Besides, I can give you Bill. In Dutch. Dutch is in Colombia. I can take you straight to him.
You left me to die?
Whoa.
To save your own skin, and now you expect me to care about
Whoa,
you?
You got it all wrong, brother. I've always loved you. Even now.
So Javier is captured, and he actually has two different endings. The first ending is if you capture him alive, you get this cutscene.
Win, my brother. I'll let the others judge it. Where's Bill? Where's Bill, you son of a bitch? You think I won't kill you, brother?
He ain't here, brother. He's with Agenda.
You're gonna be locked up for a hell of a long time. Unless they choose to hang you.
Ah, you piece of shit. Hope you're sure about what you're doing, brother. You saw me out. Didn't that life we had mean nothing to you? You puto. One day, I promise you, you're gonna regret this.
One day's about all you got left.
I hope you and your wife and children rot in hell.
You know, that life we lived is over. And when we was living it, it didn't mean nothing anyway. It was just an excuse, and we all knew.
What I knew is that you was always a puto. And you're still a puto.
Marston, come with me. The army sent reinforcements. Come.
Yeah, go with your puto.
The army. Two old friends reunited. It is a beautiful thing.
Mr. Marston, fancy seeing you down here. I must say it's a pleasant surprise to see you.
You've done well, Mr. Marston. Now, Javier here gets to see how far the hand of justice can reach. Come on, you. Get in the damn automobile.
Can we assume one of my commitments is cleared?
Unfortunately, nothing is cleared, John, until your obligations are met. We need you to find Williamson, then head to Blackwater as quick as you can. We have reason to believe that Dutch Vanderland is in the area.
Oh, your wife sends her regards.
However, if you choose to kill him, you get these cutscenes instead.
Marston, come with me. The army sent reinforcements. Come. Two old friends reunited. It is a beautiful thing.
Mr. Marston, fancy seeing you down here. Well, it is a pleasant surprise, I must say.
He's not looking very healthy. We told you to keep them alive.
You should be glad to have him at all.
Just remember your obligations to the government, Mr. Marston.
We need you to find Williamson, then head to Blackwater as quick as you can. We have reason to believe that Dutch Vanderland is in the area.
Your wife sends her regards.
But what happens to him after, if you hand him over to Ross and Fordham? Remember, they say that Javier will face justice. Well, we have the answer to this question. In the mission Old Friends, New Problems, John tells Abigail Javier's fate.
thought. The only thing Bill and Dutch was ever any good at was not getting caught.
I started thinking you'd gone back to them. I really think we should hurry.
That life's over.
I hope you're right. I think we should pick up the pace a little.
Bill, Javier, Dutch, they're all dead. It don't get more over than that.
Why are you stopping?
Javier is dead regardless if you captured him alive or not. John will still say that. So what happened? He got hung. Think about it this way. Javier is a notorious outlaw who has escaped dozens of times and had connections in Mexico. If they did not execute him, chances are he could escape again and hide out. So the government executed him most likely as soon as possible. That's how Javier's story ends. The newspaper even says that he was eliminated, such as right here. Mr. Ross is credited with eliminating some of the West's most wanted and dangerous criminals, including Bill Williamson, Dutch Vanderlyn, Javier Escuella, and John Marston, collectively known as the Vanderlyn Gang. So, newspapers confirm it also. Javier is dead, regardless of the ending that you get. The only difference is you can speed up Javier's death by killing him early on, but regardless he dies, if you hand him over, he gets hung. Next, we have Marshal Leigh Johnson, the law in Armadillo. John meets him when he is looking for Williamson.
What's going on here?
I got me one of them Williamson boys.
I got me one of them idiots who give marshals a bad name.
Jonah, put your gun down. You must be the man from Blackwater.
Yes, sir. Listen, that dog ain't too bright, but he seems loyal.
Jonah, get out of here for a minute.
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson, sir.
The last time that we see the Marshal is in the attack on Fort Mercer, where John wishes him well and gets ready to head to Mexico.
I'm sorry about this, John. I guess you'll be heading to Mexico?
So it would seem. How is it down there?
Wonderful. A sweet, peace-loving people with the love of social justice. May you always find coin in your pocket. It's been a pleasure spending time with you, boy.
You too, Mr. West Dickens. Marshal?
All right, boys. That's enough.
But what happened to the Marshal after? Well, the answer is here in the newspaper, the very final one. Let's read it right here. Marshal Johnson of Armadillo retires. Legendary Armadillo Marshal Leigh Johnson is retired at the remarkable old age of 54. I'm actually surprised he was 54. I thought he was older. Mr. Johnson, who served as a town marshal for 17 years, is credited with taking down some of New Austin's most notorious outlaws, including Walton's Gang, the Two Crow Boys, One Lung Lester, Riley, the Ballard Twins, and Wildcat Willie. Armadillo residents held a righteous leaving party in his honor at the town saloon, at which he arrested 3 men and reportedly was the last man standing at the end of the night. When asked about his plans for the future, he said that he would be moving far away from Armadillo as humanly possible. So basically, he does not want anything to do with the town, and this is also signified in his very first mission, where he actually tells that to John.
Not a bad shot, Mr. Marston. Why don't you check in with me next time you're in town?
I don't want to be no policeman, Marshal.
Nor did I, my friend. I can promise you that. I'll see you soon, Mr. Marston.
He tells John that he never even wanted to be a lawman in the first place, so he's completed his service, he wants to retire, and so he moved away, probably somewhere out of New Austin completely, to get as far away from the town, nobody can find him, and he retired peacefully. So he does have a happy ending in the end. Next up, we have Nigel West Dickens, the famous snake oil scammer in the West.
I represent the only company that makes the genuine article which cures headache, neuralgia, toothache, earache, backache, swelling.
This man is a fucking charlatan. He just got done swindling us down at Cho Springs with this song and dance.
I say we tar and feather him right now.
I say we shoot the bastard.
I think it's time we take our business elsewhere. I apologize if science is not your forte. Good day, one and all.
What happens to him after the story? When John sees him as he's leaving for Mexico, he claims he may go to Europe or Peking, which is in China.
You boys have fun down there. I shall miss you, John Marston.
Thank you. Where are you headed?
Me? London or Paris or maybe Peking. I'm a traveling man, sir. This land is much too small for the likes of me.
Well, try not to get yourself killed.
Oh, well, yes, we men of science are not a very loved bunch in this land of myth and superstition. I'm off to the civilized world where men like myself are revered and given medals. Ha!
Have fun.
The same to you, sir. The same to you.
However, we see him one final time in Blackwater, where he is being arrested and bear one another's burdens.
43.
I have a patent for that, sir. This is an outrage. Oh, Mr. Marston. You're alive.
Hello, Wes Dickens. Thought you were headed to Peking.
So did I. So did I. A long story. But now it seems I'm being put under arrest and charged with narcotic possession or some other such nonsense.
Ross, have him release this man.
Why?
Because he's a harmless old fraud, the kind of man that built this country. And because he helped me get Williamson.
Did you hear that, officer? The man's a hero. Let him go. Come on, Marston. Moral degeneracy waits for no man. Let's hurry along.
344. 345. 347. 348. 3...
John tells Ross to release him in his final scene. We can see him staring around the police station at the accountant, who is a government bureaucrat. I think what this symbolizes is that he ran his scams in New Austin, where there wasn't that much law and regulation out there, but now he ends up in Blackwater, which is a federal town. It symbolizes that his old scams won't work here anymore, and this is the only character I will speculate on because I have a pretty good idea of what happened to him. In a newspaper 3 years later, there is no mention of him at all. We see his scams start to fall apart in the last few missions with him. A man like Nigel is a scumbag, but he's also very smart. He's a traveling scammer. That makes him the most safe because he's never in one place for too long. He pretty much pissed off most of New Austin and now West Elizabeth. I think he went out east towards the East Coast or possibly to Europe. A man like Nigel is not going to stay in one spot for too long because people will want their money back and attack him. That's why he's on the move constantly. I think he left the West completely and he got out of there. Next up, we got Seth, the insane treasure hunter.
Finally, I see the light at the end of this very long, long tunnel. Seth's gonna be rich after all these years. It's silk sheets and Parisian whores from now on, mister.
John helps Seth look for his treasure, and they fight several other insane treasure hunters, but when Seth discovers his treasure, he is in for a bad surprise.
Goddamn hell is this? A glass eye?
I'm sure whoever that belonged to treasured it very much.
Those stupid liars. Those stupid chicken shit maps. Making a damn fool of me. A glass eye! It's a glass eye!
Stop with the tears and help me with Williamson's gang. And you can come up with another excuse to go exhume one of your old friends.
Hunting dead man's treasure ain't done me no favors. Sure. I'm ready for the living. I'll see you and Mr. Wes Dickens over at Fort Mercer when you gentlemen is ready.
It was just a glass eye. However, there is actually a treasure chest hidden in the basement, so Seth missed the treasure. I want to thank you guys in the comments for reminding me about it in my playthrough. It is called Calhoun's Gold, and you can sell it for a few $100s, which would be close to $10,000 in today's money. We see Seth for the final time in the attack on Fort Mercer, where he does actually help and keep his word.
Why? What's happening?
Seth has managed to get himself inside. But we can't leave it too long, or they will soon realize how very curious he is and remove him from the premises. Or slit his throat and watch him bleed to death. But for a minute, he will delight and amuse them. That's when he'll get us inside.
You can see him for the last time when he closed the door to Fort Mercer. So what happened after? Well, he surprisingly has a happy ending. Let's read the final newspaper right here. The final newspaper says, "Treasure found. A local man, Seth Briars, walked out of the mountains and tall trees and into the Blackwater with a massive haul of gold and precious stones that he had apparently spent years of his life pursuing. Mr. Briars, who was once a known associate of Moses Forth, denies any connection to famous New Austin grave robbings, by which Mr. Forth terrorized the dead in that region 3 years ago." So Seth ended up finding the treasure that he was looking for, but the treasure was actually not in New Austin. It was actually in Tall Trees in West Elizabeth, but he found a massive amount of gold and precious stones where he became rich, and he ended up blaming all of the grave robbings on Moses, so he framed Moses for that. But the thing about this is Seth is surprisingly just has a happy ending. He becomes rich, he has the lifestyle in the end that he wants, and he's wealthy. This generally did surprise me because knowing that Rockstar Games, there's usually some type of twist that these characters get, something ironic ends up happening to a lot of these characters in the end, but surprisingly, Seth is one of the characters that does have a very happy ending in the end. He got what he finally was looking for. Moving on, let's talk about Irish. When John first meets him, he's in a bit of trouble.
Playing with the Welshman's tiny and ineffective mind. Hush your mouth.
Anyway, you all got horses now. No one needs to die. Leave him be.
Who do you think you are, boyo? The bloody cavalry?
Your voice is really starting to get on my nerves, boyo.
And you're getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
Irish is also a scammer and an outlaw. He tries to avoid helping John find a machine gun despite saving his life. The last time that we see Irish, he actually does offer to help John get to Mexico.
Chupa feckin' Rosa. Well, I'll take you there, John. I'm real popular down there. You just meet me at the ferry. I've got lots of friends down south.
I'll see you at the ferry, Irish.
I'll just get me things.
Look out, bandits!
Cut the rope, Irish. We're sitting ducks here.
Bloody Nara! Kill these ungrateful bastards, Mason! I should have probably mentioned there's a bounty.
This is the 4th time your so-called friends have nearly got me killed. I thought you said they loved you over here.
They do. Oh, them big brown eyes. Turn stone into butter, they would. The Mexicans know how to make a bottle of liquor, too. Oh, that pocket. Now, there's a drink as would take the frost out of a frosty morning. Oh, you're gonna have some fun.
I'm just here for Bill Williamson.
Well, I'm glad to be back. This place is a wild devil's paradise.
Apart from the fellers trying to kill you.
Down here they call me El Rato, the cat.
No, that's El Gato in Spanish.
I'm pretty sure rato means rat, my friend. I like it though. A little more inventive than Irish.
Well, you Americans never were very creative with your use of language, was you, John Marston? We made it, thank the Lord. Quite glad to be getting out that coach.
Oh, these horses look fresher and healthy.
Before you degrade these poor fools any further, tell me where I'm headed.
Of course, of course. Let me think.
You do know people down here, aside from your friends who welcomed us on the way.
Yes, I think so. I was real drunk last time I was here, John. You know how it is. I met an American guy, saw him shoot a man, drank with him in the village of Chuparosa. Funny guy. Or was that Canada? No, that was Canada. Guy here, not funny, but he's real nice. Failing that, you could try the provincial governor, Colonel something or other, some Spanish name. He's based out of Escalera. Played 3-card stud with him. Or was it 4-card Monty? I forget. He was a real nice chap. Or maybe he was a real bastard. I was real drunk last time, John.
Well, thanks a lot for your help. Oh, let me guess. You got to be on your way.
The famed hospitality isn't what it once was, and I've never been known to overstay me welcome. So off I go to greener pastures. Good luck, John. You're an angry and a feck ugly man, but not a bad one.
So what ends up happening to him afterwards? Well, he's dead. Let's take a look at this article. In the miscellany section, it says, Irish male of unknown name came to his death by the accidental discharge of a gun in a Thieves' Landing outhouse. It says that Irish had died by accidentally shooting himself in that outhouse. So how did this happen exactly? Well, it actually foreshadows itself pretty well. Let's take a look at this scene.
Let Uncle Irish, honey, tied and string. Where are you? Oh, who do you want? I see you. Get away from me.
Right here. Where's that machine gun, Irish?
Oh, Mr. Marston. I found you one.
Found us one, Irish. We're in this together. You, me, and an assault on Fort Mercer.
So you see, Irish is constantly drunk. He was definitely drunk when he accidentally shot himself. This scene further foreshadows it.
Up, sister. Put them up.
Irish, what are you doing?
Who the hell are you?
Give me that. I'm your old friend Amnesia.
Oh, good. Blimey.
I've come to tell you, if you ever pretend to forget my name or your debt to me again, I'll make sure you reach heaven before these two ladies. Now get down there.
Oh, Mr. Marston. How are you?
Ashamed. Ashamed to know you. The hell's wrong with you, robbing these gentlewomen and ladies of the Lord?
I thought they was doxies.
Ladies, I'm sorry about this man. He's unfortunately lost his mind to the demon drink. At least I hope he has, and he wasn't this stupid all along. So, please excuse us. Now, Irish, that Gatling gun doesn't work. I find that rather upsetting, don't you?
Oh, heartbreaking. Which is why I was just coming to see you when the drink got the better of me. Come on. I know where we can find it.
He tried to rob a group of nuns while drunk and was waving his revolver around in an extremely unsafe manner. What I think happened was that he was in the outhouse drunk, about to pass out, and he probably reached for his gun, not realizing what he was doing, and accidentally shot himself. In his final mission with John, he even foreshadows his death, that he would be late for his own funeral.
Nice of you to turn up for once, Irish.
What do you mean?
In usual fashion, you conveniently missed all the action at Fort Mercer.
What can I say? I woke up with me head in a pair of tits, and it felt ill-mannered not to get reacquainted with me.
At least you got your priorities straight.
You know me, Johnny boy. I'll be late to me own funeral. They say God invented whiskey to stop the Irish from ruling the world.
Well, you're here now.
I can't swim, you know.
Me neither. But a current like this will carry you for miles. We'll end up on shore sooner or later.
This is perfectly foreshadowed. What it means is that no one will remember him. Not even the newspaper knew who he was, only that he was an Irishman that accidentally shot himself. He didn't even get a front page article, instead it was in the miscellany section. Next up, we have Archer Fordham, Edgar Ross's partner.
They better be.
Thank you, Mr. Marston, for everything. I know this wasn't easy for you, but I have to say, you've done your country proud.
Yeah, exactly. See you around, John. Try to stay out of trouble. Come on, Archer. Let's go find somebody else we can annoy.
I'm going to be very quick on this one because I made an entire lore video on him just a few days ago. I thought that I would add him in here because people would probably ask about him. I will link my Archer video at the end if you want to check it out, but to summarize it, fans debate whether he was a Beecher's hope when Edgar Ross betrayed John. Yes, he was there. Fans believe oftentimes he wasn't there because he respected John. He was more friendly towards John than Ross was, but he was very much there. You see him twice in the final mission. He is the first person that John sees when he peeks out of the barn, and you see him standing on the right side of Isaac. Isaac is a separate lawman that people mistake for Fordham in the cutscene, but Fordham was not in the cutscene, just Isaac was. However, though, Fordham was standing to the right of Isaac. Maybe he respected John, but for him, orders are orders, and he will do whatever Ross tells him to. I personally believe he died at the ranch. You can kill him or avoid killing him, but his death is optional. Next up, we have MacDougal, the racist, annoying professor.
My research is complete. Much as I thought. There's no civilizing this savage land.
I could have told you that for nothing.
Ah, but they'll give me a prize in New Haven for this. Well, they bloody better. Well, goodbye, Mr. Marston. Best of luck, dear friend.
So long, Professor.
So long, sir.
So what happens to him? Well, he gets arrested and fired. Let's take a look at the final newspaper in the game. Anthropologist turned savage, New Haven in shock. Yale professor Harold MacDougal has been expelled from the university following a drunken brawl with a fellow academic, Lionel Fortisk. Mr. MacDougal, who spent 6 months in West Elizabeth in 1911 studying the social and cultural behaviors of native population, published a damning thesis last year on the impossibility of taming the savage mind. A Connecticut newspaper reports that MacDougal attacked Mr. Fortisk after an argument broke out over Polynesian cannabis at a garden party. After beating Mr. Fortisk with a croquet mallet, the agitated professor fled to the roof of the Woolsey Hall, where he had removed his clothes and threatened to jump if someone did not bring him a plate of beef Wellington and a bottle of 94 Claret. University officials stated that Mr. MacDougal had become increasingly unhinged in recent months and was already on probation following allegations that he had attempted to pay a groundskeeper to remove the top of his skull so he could photograph a living brain. My God. He is expelled from Yale University in Connecticut because he got into a fight with another professor after he was supposedly drunk. So he was expelled after he ran to the roof with no clothes and hit another professor. But here's the thing. What if I was to tell you he wasn't drunk, and this story is lying to you in the full detail? I know people are going to ask, how do you know the story's a lie? The story is 90% true. Everything he did in that article, he did. He just wasn't drunk. How do I know that? Because throughout the entire story, you never see MacDougal drink. Instead, he was using cocaine.
Would you like to partake of a syringe of cocaine? I've quite enough for two.
Not right this minute, no.
Oh, it's a remarkable drug. It entirely restores the ego. It takes one back to a primal state. It helps my thinking enormously.
Cocaine was a common drug back then that you could get from pharmacies. People believed that it would help you concentrate and give you energy. They weren't aware of the full negative effects of it. Large companies sold it. Even Coca-Cola used to sell cocaine in their drinks. He was on a cocaine rampage. While someone that is drunk could definitely do what he did, extreme behavior like throwing all your clothes off, beating someone with a stick over a simple discussion is more in common with a dangerous drug like cocaine. When someone is drunk, they have impaired vision, slurred speech. However, when someone is under cocaine, they can have a rush, they can be extremely hyper, energetic, and they can be extremely aggressive. While a drunk can be aggressive as well, for me, MacDougal's behavior is more consistent with cocaine abuse. Think about this. He also made demands for steak and wine. And the whole discussion beforehand was about the use of marijuana. So he must have had some form of discussion before he snapped. The point is that he wasn't having some slurred speech like a drunk would typically have. If someone is drunk, you can tell right away. But if they're high on coke, you might not be able to tell until they react. He got expelled and fired from Yale. But now here's the question. If he was on a coke-filled rampage, why does the paper say that he was drunk? Simply to cover it up. Let's take a look at the same article here in the last paper. Shocking report claims cocaine bad for health. Despite widespread medicinal use as a local anesthetic revitalizer and moral booster for long hours of work, the American Journal of Pharmacists flew in the face of a popular opinion this week and issued a report indicating derivatives of the coca plant to be bad for health. Many doctors and druggists scoffed at the report. This natural and magical alkaloid can supplement the place of food, make the silent eloquent, make the coward brave, and relieve suffering on many levels, said Dr. Lawrence Mariani. The report claimed that cocaine was the stuff of burglars, bohemians, night porters, low-class prostitutes, pimps, and lawyers, and said its use can be blamed for increased attacks on white women. Well, it would be an increased attack on anybody, but newspapers in this time period were also extremely racist. It says that cocaine is bad for your health. That's not a coincidence. Cocaine was a massive industry back then. Remember what I said. Pharmacists and large companies were advertising this drug back then. These companies would do everything in their power to prevent studies like this from coming out. Just think of the tobacco companies. They used to say, if you smoke, you live to 100. And imagine the headlines that the paper said that famous professor goes on coke rampage in Yale. Imagine how bad that would look for the cocaine industry. The paper is covering up that part of the story. Just take a look at how unstable MacDougal is here.
Marston, sir, it's good to see you, old bean. Good to see you.
And you too, Professor.
Forgive me, I am in a state of remarkable agitation, partly due to standard narcotic impulses, but also due to the fact that I have finally solved the riddle that has tormented my mind these past 8 years.
What's that?
The nature of the savage soul. What makes some societies great, like ours, and others, not worse. I would never use a pejorative such as worse, but lesser.
Meaning?
What makes these beings less human than us? Closer to beast on the continuum between animal and God. You know, I argued with Fortescue at Yale about this. It caused a minor scandal. But I shall be proven right, sir. I shall. Mark my words. I shall show them all what civilization is all about. The redskins and the nubs at Yale. Come, sir. I have a way to sate both our desires. I will bring you, Vanderlinde and me, the evidence of savages reverting to type. Come, sir!
I think we all are.
Not me, sir. I'm from Connecticut. I'm a professor at Yale. I write books. I do not deserve to die out here. Where's my tincture? Oh, yes.
You okay, Professor?
Oh, dandy, sir. Just dandy. Oh, great heavens above!
Remember, he never drank. He was always on coke. And now you're telling me he was on a drunk rampage? He had several near-death experiences, and the most dangerous outlaw in the West after him, Dutch Vanderlyn, who wanted him dead. He was extremely stressed out and started using again, perhaps even more, and went on a coke rampage in Yale. I don't feel bad for him at all. Remember how racist he was?
Nastas, come on. Come in, sir. Would you like to take off your slippers? Or skin a rabbit? I know we cannot see the stars, but still my heart is pure, and we meet as equals. These savages must be spoken to simply in metaphors.
No, sir. I grew up on a reservation and attended school.
Oh, lovely.
But I can show you what you want to see. I know where the group of bandits you seek are hiding.
I've been looking at some blood samples through my microscope, and you know what?
No.
Well, of course you don't. It's a remarkable breakthrough. I've been looking at the blood of both natives and white men of corresponding height, weight, and age, and you know what?
Again, no.
They're exactly the same. It's remarkable. It completely refutes my last book. But I'll tell you what, sir. This sabbatical in the field may have been somewhat forced upon me by circumstance, but my scholarship has benefited enormously.
He was a vile man and an idiot. The unfortunate thing is people listened to idiots like him back then. A lot of people believed this stuff. You're a damn professor, MacDougal, and you can't even fully study the effects of cocaine before putting it in your body. He got what he deserved in the end. Next up, we have Landon Ricketts, the famous gunslinger.
Well, you've killed people. You lived the life.
That I have.
And I tried to stop. I mean, I don't know. I tried to go straight. I did. I left the gang after the gang left me. Left me to die after I'd been shot. They'd all gone crazy anyhow. Our old leader, fella you probably heard of. Anyway, he more or less lost his mind, went and shot a bunch of people unfair like. I got shot in a robbery. They left me, and I left them.
Well, that's how it goes.
So what happens to him? Here's the first newspaper with him at the start of the game. Let's take a listen to it right here. Landon Ricketts rumored alive. Perhaps the legends of the Old West do live on into this more modern country. Reports from Mexico suggest that possibly the last of the great gunmen, Landon Ricketts, may be alive and well just south of the border. Mr. Ricketts, who survived the Blackwater Massacre of 1899 and who shot and killed both of the Butcher brothers in 1896, amongst many other rumored and verified killings, was long believed dead after a late-night gunfight in eastern California in 1902. Now it seems the last of the men who lived by the speed of their reflexes may be still among us. It is unclear whether he will now join a Wild West show. So what is his fate? The last time that we see him, John Marston actually helps him to free a bunch of hostages that are captured by the Mexican army.
Now, we'll handle it from here. I know you got other matters to attend to.
It's been nice riding with you, Mr. Ricketts.
And you, too. You took me back to another time. Talk to Louisa. She'll help you, and she's well connected in that other land. I hope you find what you're looking for, Marston.
You know what I'm looking for.
If you say so, Marston. If you say so.
Well, his fate is he dies in his sleep. The last newspaper says this. Landon Ricketts dead. Another piece of the Old West died last week with news that legendary gunman Landon Ricketts passed away quietly in his sleep. Mr. Ricketts, famous for his involvement in the Blackwater Massacre of 1899 and the deaths of the Butcher brothers in 1896, returned to the U.S. 3 years ago after living for many years in Mexico. He is rumored to have been writing an autobiography at the time of his death, but the book was never made available for publishing. Amongst the legendary shooters of the West, Mr. Ricketts was considered to be one of the fastest draws, although he was also dogged by rumors that one of his most famous victories, when he shot and killed Johnny West, was won by shooting his opponent in the back. So Ricketts returned to the U.S. after John Marston's story. He doesn't seem to have a bounty on him. He dies peacefully in his sleep. He does have a seemingly happy ending. Ricketts dedicated his last years to helping people in Mexico like Louisa, who he cared about. Maybe it was her death that caused him to go back to the U.S. He had a peaceful ending, living a long life and dying in his sleep. My only question is whether he saw Reyes turn Mexico into another dictatorship and what he thought of it. Perhaps he didn't see that because it probably would have broken his heart as well. And another thing I'll add on to this, there's a lot of people in the Red Dead community that would say that Landon Ricketts had trained Jack Marston, and that's how good Jack Marston had gotten since 3 years, but there really is no proof of this. This is just a common fan theory. I have personally seen no proof of it whatsoever. And lastly here, we have the biggest scumbag in the game besides Edgar Ross, Abraham Reyes.
My country, Abraham Reyes has been captured.
He has?
He was coming to meet me at Roca Madera. It's a very romantic spot. It was a beautiful night, yet he was ambushed by patrol. My heart is breaking, but I cry for Mexico.
Where's he being held?
El Presidio. You know, in our hearts we are married already, but his family do not approve. How could they, when I am little more than a peasant girl? But that's what makes Abraham the man he is. He doesn't care for their bourgeois, snobbery, or elitism. He sees the real me. The woman.
I'm sure.
I'm going to go and rescue him or die trying.
Oh, whoa. I don't think that's such a good idea. Ride with me to near the jail. We'll figure out how to rescue him.
Mr. Marston, you're truly a friend of this land.
So everyone keeps informing me.
Abraham Reyes is the leader of the Mexican Revolution, fighting against Sanchez's regime, who's the dictator of Mexico at the time. You're led to believe that Reyes is an honorable and fair man by Louisa, but in reality, he's a massive scumbag.
Louisa sent me. We have to meet her by the river. ¿Qué? Louisa, the girl you're marrying.
Oh, yes. Such a devoted thing. El amor de mi vida. Now get us a horse, my friend. I am in no condition to ride myself. How do you know my young lover, Laura?
It's Luisa. I saved her life not so long back.
I will not forget this, compadre. You will be rewarded. Money, women, Luisa if you want her.
I'm here for 2 men, and that's it.
You've been spending too much time with Captain De Santa.
Very funny. Not like that. I'll explain later. Come on!
I am free again! I will write a poem about this day.
This is from a man who was tied to a post with a gun in his face a few minutes ago.
I wish I could see Allende's face when he finds out that I defeated 100 of his men.
All you done is get on the back of this horse, my friend.
He doesn't even remember her and offers John Luisa. Reyes is not even a peasant, but an aristocrat. He was educated in Europe. You can tell from the first time meeting him that he's an opportunist. He claims he killed 100 soldiers and freed himself, when no, it was John who did that. He pretends to care about the peasants and the poor, but in reality, he doesn't care at all, and he's just using them.
Oye, mamita, cuando te vea la próxima vez que sea un poco más durito, ¿eh? And I mean rougher, ¿eh?
What would your most loyal follower, Luisa, say about that?
Who?
Luisa, the girl from Campo Murata?
Her, a gentleman never tells, but she was a most wonderful... I just say she was increíble, yes. Let me tell you something. I strongly recommend her. You take her when you have the chance, my brother.
She thinks she's your wife.
My wife? These peasant girls, they believe every word a fellow says. So naive. It's really quite charming. I love peasants. Don't you love peasants? I love them. They have such purity.
Are you gonna marry her?
Ha! Marry a peasant? My dear boy, don't be absurd. I'm going to be the next president of Mexico. My wife will meet ambassadors, kings, other great men, and the hands of a farmer. Well, I really don't think so. My mother, que Dios la cuide, would turn in her grave.
Interesting.
But come on, let's run. I've got an amazing present for you, my brother, huh? Yes? The man you seek. Together, we will bring them to justice. Let's go.
There's also really messed up dialogue with him. If you choose not to skip the ride, he says something extremely racist. He considers Chinese people inferior to Mexicans.
Brother, I know what you Americans call us. Greasers, sun greeners, pepper guts. For a land of immigrants, you don't like foreigners very much.
I don't care who a man is, what he does, or where he's from. If he treats me right, I'll do the same.
It's that simple for you, isn't it? You would make a fine socialist.
What about the Chinese workers here? I hear you ain't exactly made them very welcome.
That is different. They are an inferior race.
You have all the makings of a great leader, Abraham.
So here you have a guy that's claiming that he's fighting for the poor, for an equal system, and yet he considers Chinese people inferior. And his most scummiest act is in his final mission, where when Luisa dies, he doesn't even remember her.
The American is a drunk! If I were you, I would pull that trigger.
Put the gun down, Americano.
Ya, mátalo.
¡Déjenme, hombre!
¡Mierda! ¡Ay,
Dios mío!
¡Puta Santa María!
So you want to settle this now, friend? Or you want me to shoot you in the head right now for that poor girl?
Okay, but we fight like men, not like dogs.
Stay out of my way.
Thanks, my brother. Now the people are finally ready. Today we overthrow the Coronel.
Senor, there are prisoners in jail who will...
All of you!
You always was a traitor! You bastard orphan!
And you always was a dumb, inbred hick!
Esta noche duermo en tu cama, cabrón. Allende is dead! Mexico is mine! My people are free. And it is all thanks to you, John.
And to the people who laid down their lives. People like Louisa.
Oh, yes. She was very brave, and she will be missed. Who was she again?
Your peasant girl wife-to-be?
Oh, yes, of course. She will have a day named after her. Laura's Day.
Louisa.
What? Oh, yes, I know Laura as well. Magnificent girl. Like riding a pompous bull it was, amigo. You never saw anything like it. Anyway, enough about sport. Let's get back to politics. I trust you will join us in riding on the Capitol.
I'd love to, but with Williamson dead, my jailers need me back in Blackwater.
¿Qué hacen? Levántense. Well, I must say, I'll miss you, John Marston.
I doubt you'll even remember me, Abraham, but it's been an experience. Good luck with the revolution. If you win power, remember why you wanted it.
Well, travel safely, amigo. Vámonos.
Marston tries his best to convince Reyes to be a good leader, but in the end, he doesn't listen to him. So what happens to him? Let's read the final papers. One of the earliest papers says this: civil unrest returns to Mexico. General Ignacio Sanchez's government has been quick to downplay reports of civil unrest in several provinces, although witnesses talk of large-scale rioting, protest, and train hijacking by rebel bands, alongside government death squads and other reports of violent retribution. Government officials describe events as little more than small-scale skirmishes between an increasingly confident government and the last vestiges of a rebellion loyal to the previous regimes. Dispatches vary widely as to the scale and extent of unrest, and as to whether Mexico is moving towards a much-needed period of peace and prosperity or sinking into another era of violent internal strife and conflict. Unrest in the capital have led to the deaths of up to 5,000 people. So right there, you had 5,000 people that were killed in the capital. Make sure you remember that. Those people were most likely protesting against Sanchez's government. Although one local official blamed events on nothing more than a festival gone wrong. And then we have this one, another civil war in Mexico. Following a long period of uncertainty, rioting, and sporadic violence across the country, it seems Mexico has slipped closer to an all-out civil war. A band of rebels led by Abraham Reyes has seriously challenged government rule in Nuevo Paraiso and other surrounding areas. These incidents have led some experts on the region to deduce that Mexico, long on the brink of another full-scale civil war, is now involved in a full-scale conflict with itself. Mr. Reyes, a nobleman's son, born in a ranch just outside the capital, was educated in the traditional way in both Mexico and in Europe, where he was expelled from a Swiss boarding school after an incident with a chambermaid. He is promising to bring Mexico into the 20th century and improve conditions for the poor. Mr. Reyes also believes that Mexico should be considered a leading nation and take more prominent issues in world affairs. He believes the future lies in a vital allegiance between Mexico itself, a federation of states, and the most powerful empires of Europe and Asia, the Habsburg Empire and the powerful Ottoman Empire, and that together they can greater effect adequate union between the eastern and western hemispheres in a more productive and international alliance for many years to come. It is this foresight and intelligence that has endeared him to a large section of Mexico, which is bringing the country to the brink of bloody anarchy. So Reyes comes in, he promises the poor that he's going to be helping, but remember, it says that he was educated in Europe. He's a rich noble background. He is not poor, and he wants to ally with other armies, other empires like Austria-Hungary and also the Ottoman Empire, who are doing some pretty messed up things. And here we have another article. America welcomes refugees. America continues to accept the downtrodden, this time from the bloody conflict raging in Mexico, with the government of General Sanchez no longer able to deny that the country has entered another bloody period of civil unrest, and that the army engaged in battles with rebel hands and freedom fighters in provinces across the country. Displaced civilians are steaming across the border into the United States. There have been stories of death squads roaming the Mexican countryside, killing entire villages suspected of supporting rebel leader Abraham Reyes, and also violent attacks from supporters of Mr. Reyes on towns loyal to the government. Over 15 suspected massacres have now been reported, although the death toll from the latest conflict remains unknown. One American reporter in the region told this newspaper, both leaders promised to bring stability and freedom to Mexico, and such is the people's confusion that they have decided to slaughter one another in order to decide whom to believe. Make sure you remember that point, because that's very important. Now, with countless civilians dispatched, many are streaming into America, hoping for well-paid jobs and a new life in our land of opportunity. American officials have called for a proper American welcome and insisted internment camps are opened at the earliest opportunity. So, again, newspapers extremely racist in this time period, and Rockster's a twist on the time period too. And this is when Colonel Allende got overthrown. Tyrannical government overthrown. Is Sanchez next? The bloody rebellion in Mexico claimed its first high-profile victim yesterday with the killing of a state governor. Colonel Agustin Allende, governor of Nuevo Paraiso, just south of the border below New Austin, was killed yesterday following a firefight with rebels. Unsubstantiated reports suggest American mercenaries may have been fighting on both sides during the battle. Abraham Reyes, leader of the rebel band that is trying to overthrow General Sanchez's government and improve conditions in Mexico, claimed this was a great victory that will lead all the way to the presidential palace in Mexico City. Colonel Allende, who had been implicated in several massacres and other atrocities in the region, was not a popular governor, and locals cheered when they heard the news of his demise. Mr. Reyes promised to bring greater political freedom to Nuevo Paraiso and set up a workers' council immediately, while at the same time releasing a new state anthem, a ballad of his own composition. So he created literally his own anthem. And then moving on here, this is when Reyes marched onto the capital, Mexico City. Sanchez's government falls. Suddenly, Mexico has a new president. General Ignacio Sanchez's government was swept from power yesterday as supporters of Abraham Reyes ransacked the president's palace, and Mr. Reyes assumed control of the country. After weeks of fighting in and around the capital, food riots across the country, and bloody battles being fought in many provinces, events turned quickly when the 5th Mexican Cavalry Division, which maintains a large garrison near the capital, switched its allegiance from General Sanchez to Mr. Reyes, following Mr. Reyes' promise to increase army pay and double leave. General Sanchez is believed to have fled the capital and gone into hiding. Although conflicting reports suggest he may have been killed in bloody fighting, Mr. Reyes noted that this was a great day for Mexico. Finally, my people, the people of this proud and valiant land, are free. A new golden age for our country is just beginning. First, we need a period of stability, and then elections, and a place on the world stage. Mr. Reyes then announced a 3-day fiesta, declaring a national holiday. Rioting continued across much of the country, while initial reports suggest up to 100,000 may have died in the conflict. And the final newspaper in the game. President Reyes denies he is a tyrant despite massacre. Following last month's bloody massacre in a small town south of Mexico City, in which thousands were shot by troops while peacefully protesting the government, President Reyes has spoken out to deny rumors that he is a tyrant who has reneged on promises to bring peace to Mexico. Mr. Reyes argued that although the path to democratic rule had been slower than he would have liked, progress was still being made. At the same time, he pointed out that the ornate new presidential palace was proof that Mexicans could work effectively to get things done together. Plans for a concert hall and other civic buildings remain in place. Mr. Reyes also denied reports of a widespread starvation in the country and said he believed Mexico was on the point of entering a new golden age. So he did the exact same thing that Sanchez did early on in the story when there was a dictator Sanchez in Mexico. Sanchez came to power in his own revolution in a coup, and he promised the poor that he would help them, but he didn't. He was just using people. He was extremely corrupt, and when he came to power, he killed anybody that protested against him, and he stole from Mexico and the Mexican people. And what does Reyes do? The exact same thing. He does a massacre in Mexico. He massacres protesters in Mexico City, and he builds a giant presidential palace while the country is starving. And then he has the nerve to claim that this is to help the people. A concert hall, what does that have to do with helping people who are starving, helping people who are poor? It has absolutely nothing to do with it. And I'll tell you guys, the saddest article is actually this one of the earliest articles. This is before Reyes came to power. It says, Mexican leader appeals for calm. Mexican President General Ignacio Sanchez, who seized power last year in a bloody coup in which he killed his own brother, has appealed for calm in the tempestuous country. General Sanchez, who was head of a Mexican cavalry division and who had studied in Spain and Bolivia, and promising to improve conditions for workers across the country while increasing suffrage. In a speech he made last week, Sanchez noted, despite my privileged upbringing, I am a true son of Mexico, but as a Mexican, I know our country needs strong leadership, and this is what I intend to provide. The road for our country has never been easy, but I promise you, we are now heading in the correct direction. So notice how similar this is right here. He betrayed his own brother and took power. He led a cavalry division. The cavalry division betrayed his brother and took power. And Reyes convinced the cavalry division to also switch to his side. And then he made a big speech claiming that he's going to help the poor and they're heading in the right direction. And you know exactly how that went for Mexico. You got people like Colonel Allende appointed as governors by people like Sanchez. And you can actually hear an NPC actually talking about how Reyes made a 5-hour speech.
A Mexican named Reyes or something made a speech that lasted 5 hours, I heard.
This is showing that he doesn't care about the people. He just cares about himself. 5-hour speech. And how is that going to help anybody? He even talks about how he's going to make his speech to John when John just keeps asking him, how are you going to help people?
You might be right, my friend.
Do you really think a revolution can work? Do you have enough men?
Revolution begins with one person, John.
One person ain't gonna defeat the Mexican army.
The poor are many and together we are strong. They are ready to fight.
If it does work,
it will.
If it does work, and you take down Allende, what then?
I will give the greatest speech of my life.
But after all the fighting and all the speeches are over, what will you do?
I will march on the capital and take on Sanchez himself.
All right, when Mexico's yours, and you have all the power you desire, what will you do with it?
Like any great leader, my brother, I will delegate.
The newspapers are basically pointing that this is a cycle that is going to continue. The exact same thing is gonna happen, and you're gonna have another Reyes that's gonna come to power, and he's gonna claim that he's there to help the poor, and the exact same thing is gonna happen all over again. History repeats itself. And basically, Reyes and Sanchez are parodies of leaders during the Mexican Revolution, because Mexico actually had a few governments during the revolution, and a lot of their leaders made vague promises and never kept them, and then the Mexican government got pretty authoritarian. So Reyes is, I would say, you could possibly argue he is the biggest scumbag in the game besides Sanchez. With Sanchez, you don't see him ever, but he's the government that put Allende in charge. So Reyes manipulated his people, lied to his people, used the poor, had the poor fight and die for him, only to seize power, steal from the country, build himself a giant palace, and completely screw over everyone who fought for the revolution, fought for change, fought for equality, fought for freedom. Reyes has completely destroyed and ruined all of that, which is really one of the biggest scumbags ever of all time. And that pretty much concludes it on what happened to all the characters. Reyes becomes a power-hungry dictator, and what do I think his fate is? I think he's going to get overthrown. I think that's exactly what's going to happen to him, and the cycle is just going to keep continuing. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, do drop a like, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.